So this is part two of the bones and skeleton, or the skeleton and the muscles together, and how they fit together. Um, we had done the gastrocnemius, gastrocnemius. Remember, don't forget that C. Gastrocnemius, and we figured out that it was right up here, and it was your calf to your lower leg, and then it turned into the tendon, and it attached down here at your heel, at your calcaneus. And that was the insertion point. The origin point was attaching up here to both medial and lateral condyles of your femur. And remember, condyle is just a smooth area on the bone where the bones connect. Now what I want to do is we're going to go do the soleus. And the soleus is right underneath the gastrocnemius. If you notice these two sides sticking out of the side here, behind the gastrocnemius and the tendon, just these two little areas sticking out of the side, that's actually one big pancake. And let's look at the foot on the right hand side now. See, they've cut the gastrocnemius away, so you can see all of this going all the way down is the soleus, and that's underneath the gastrocnemius. From the posterior view, we're still looking at the back of the leg. Now in front of that soleus is the tibia. And see, you can see part of the tibia up here. And the tibia comes down kind of a little bit off center and then goes back up. And right next to the tibia is the fibula. And the fibula starts up here and it goes laterally down next to the tibia. And then it comes back up. Now, if we look at the bones underneath this, if we look at just the tibia with the bones stripped away, then as we can see up here on top of the tibia, there are condyles. There's a lateral condyle and a medial condyle, and that's where it meets up with the condyles of the femur up here on the top. And right here between the fibula and the tibia, right where the fibula and the tibia meet, oops, right where the fibula and the tibia meet, there is this little line that goes down kind of diagonally. It would be an oblique line because oblique means diagonal. Right here, where this little line is, it comes back up right here, that's the soleal line, or soleal line. So that is the point of attachment for the soleus right up here, and it kind of attaches to the fibula, the head of the fibula, and the median condyle of the tibia right there, and then it goes down this soleal line, and that's where the soleus attaches itself. That would be the origin. And then the soleus goes all the way down in this big flat pancake shape that's going to stick out of the edges when you get down here, and the gastrocnemius gets narrower. It'll stick out on medially and laterally, and then it comes down and it merges with the gastrocnemius calcaneal tendon. You know how the gastrocnemius is up here is the calf, but then it comes down here and it gets narrow and it turns into the tendon, and then the tendon attaches itself to your heel bone, or your calcaneus, well, it's the same thing. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know what's wrong with my pad. Well, it's the same thing with the soleus. The soleus merges with that exact same tendon right here that comes down and attaches itself at your heel bone, at your calcaneus. So the soleus origins up at the soleal line and right up at the top of the fibula and the tibia, and then it goes all the way down and merges with the gastrocnemius's tendon called the calcaneal or calcaneal tendon and attaches to the heel bone. So they both merge into one tendon and they both attach to that heel bone. The only difference is that the soleus attaches here at the soleal line, and it attaches at the top of the fibula and the top of the tibia. The gastrocnemius keeps going, and it attaches up right here at the bottom of the femur, on both medial and lateral condyles. So the gastrocnemius doesn't even attach itself to your leg, but to your tibia or fibula at all. It's attached at the heel, and it's attached up at the femur, at the bottom of the femur. Now your soleus is attached up at the top of the tibia and fibula, and it still is inserted down here at the heel. So what does that mean? This means that both the gastrocnemius and the soleal muscle pretty much has the same action, because they're both attached right around here on the back of the knee. So when the soleus is flexed, when it's tightened, it does the same thing as the gastrocnemius, which is plantar flexion. And plantar flexion is, you can either look at it as you're pushing your foot downward and bending right here at the heel and the ankle, or you can also look at it as you're raising your heel up off the ground. But either way, you're kind of in the position to point your toes at that point when you're doing plantar flexion, because plantar just means the bottom of your foot and flexion just means the movement. It bends. So it bends toward the bottom of your foot. The bottom of your foot goes down. We're going to make this your left foot, because here's your big toe. So the posterior view of your left foot. Now inside of here, here's your femur coming down, and your femur comes down like this, and it sticks out more medially than it does laterally. And on your femur are these smooth sections where it's going to hook up with, with your knee joint, with your tibia and fibula. Now your tibia is going to start up here, and it's going to go down a little bit it's not directly in the center of your leg. It's actually a little bit toward the medial side, toward your big toe side, because it has to make room for the fibula that's right here, and it comes down, and they both sit on the talus in your foot, and then that talus sits on your heel bone, your calcaneus. So the one I'm coloring in is your heel. Now there are also condyles, the little smooth section of the bone, on top of the fibula and on top of the tibia because, as I said, when the bones join, they come together, they both have to have smooth little sections on them so they don't rub together and cause friction or grind together. And also on this tibia, from the middle of the tibia where it meets the fibula, there's a line. It's like a raised, it's just like a raised section that makes this line diagonally down the top portion of the tibia, and that's your soleal line. So your gastrocnemius attaches up here at the femur, the condyles of the femur, and it attaches here on the other condyle of the femur, the lateral and medial, and it comes down, makes your calf, and then turns into the tendon and attaches to the heel. Same thing over here. So behind this, your soleus attaches to the top condyle of the tibia and the top condyle of the fibula, and that soleal line where it comes out more like a pancake and sticks to the side and sticks out from the side from the gastrocnemius that's on top, that's more superficial to us. They merge down here into the tendon, calcaneal tendon. That's like your Achilles heel, if you remember Greek mythology. They both merge into this tendon, and the tendon is what inserts down here at the heel. So the origins are up here, because when you tense up these muscles, when you tense up the gastrocnemius, the femur doesn't move. When you tense up the soleus, the top of the tibia and the top of the fibula don't move when you tense up the soleus. What moves? Your heel down here. It pulls your heel up, because when muscles are activated, they shorten, and therefore pull the heel up, which in turn pushes your foot downward. So now what section of the body moves? How do you know what section of the body moves by this muscle? What this muscle does? It's wherever the muscle is inserted. The muscle is inserted into the heel. Therefore, the action or the movement is going to be the heel moving up, because these muscles are shortening, so it moves this heel up. Now, so enough of the back of the leg. We're going to do the rest of these a lot faster. Now for the front of the leg. Here's going to be the front of the leg, and I'm going to put the toes out kind of to the side so we can see what's going on. And then there's this big calf muscle, and then here's the knee, and then here's the thigh. So here's the ankle, here's the big toe. So this would be medially, and this side would be lateral. So in here, Anteriorly, you're going to have the tibia start up here, and it's not going to go exactly down the exact middle of the leg. It's going to kind of favor the medial side of the leg on the big toe side, because it has to leave room for the fibula that's out here and comes down. Let's start with the fibula side. On the fibula side, on the lateral portion of the fibula up high, is going to be the origin point for a muscle that's going to run all the way down the length of the fibula, come all the way down, and it's going to attach itself. Now this is going to run alongside the fibula, and it's going to come all the way down and attach itself to right in between the first metatarsal and the medial cuneiform. Now remember, the medial cuneiform is right here. There's the medial cuneiform, the intermediate, and the lateral, and then over here is the cuboid for your tarsal bones. So this muscle is going to come all the way down the fibula and kind of cross over in front of the foot and come right down here in front of the medial cuneiform bone and right behind where it attaches to the first metatarsal. And this muscle that runs right all the way down, it starts up at the top of the fibula, and its insertion point between the median cuneiform and first metatarsal. And that is the insertion. So if it runs all the way down this fibula right here until it gets to the foot, what do you think this is called? And it's really long because it goes all the way down the fibula and it crosses over into halfway down the foot. So it's really long. Well, this is called the fibularis longus. And since its origin is at the top of the fibula, when this muscle contracts, the fibula doesn't move because that's where the origin is. And remember, the origin doesn't move when the muscle contracts. What moves? The insertion is pulled. It's pulled up this way. It's pulled up toward the muscle because the muscle is shortening. So if the insertion is right here, the first metatarsal for your big toe, and the cuneiform right there, the medial cuneiform, what's going to happen? It's going to lift up this whole side of this foot is going to lift up. So if you draw your leg like this, it's going to lift up. Here's your toes. Here's the ankle. It's going to lift up right here like this. So it's going to be going kind of this way. So showing the bottom of your feet. So this is going to be pointing out to the side. And this is called eversion. because it's pointing outward. And it's just the side of your foot pushing toward the outside, pushing laterally. Since this, let's go back to the picture that I drew first. Since this is going all the way down the fibula and it crosses over and it attaches down here to your first metatarsal, between the median cuneiform and your first metatarsal, that's kind of where your toes start, right? The metatarsal. So that's going to help you point your toes as well. So, and pointing your toes is called what now? Plantar flexion. Because plantar just means the bottom of your foot, and flexion means move to bend. So this is going to help you bend your big toe down like you're a ballerina pointing your toes. Now let's take a look at the other muscles that are in the front in the anterior view. Now, as we said before, we have the tibia that kind of comes down and favors the big toe side. And then we have the fibula that runs down laterally, the outside of the leg. And we know over here is the fibularis longus, right? Because it runs down the side of the fibula and then it crosses over and extends into the digits down here into the metacarpals, so it's long. I'll write this down here again. Now on the other side of the fibula, in front of the tibia, we're going to have a muscle that starts on the lateral side of the tibia, lateral side of the tibia, and runs down in front of the tibia, like so. And it is going to end up the exact same place as the fibularis longus, in between the medial cuneiform and the first metatarsal. So if it starts on the lateral side of the tibia and it runs down in front of the tibia, then this is going to be called the tibialis anterior, because it is anterior or in front of the tibia. Now its origin is just the lateral side of the tibia, and its insertion point is just the exact same insertion point as the fibularis longus. So it's in front of the medial cuneiform and behind the first metatarsal. So if we know the origin is the lateral head and neck of the tibia, when this muscle bunches up and contracts, we know that that lateral head and neck of the tibia is not going to move. This muscle is not going to move this part of this bone. What is the muscle going to move? It's going to move this down here. And since it runs in front, see, the fibularis longus ran on the side and then crossed over the foot down here. But since this tibialis runs in front of the tibia and it's attached right there at the first metacarpal, when this muscle shortens, then it bends the foot up at the ankle. So the foot ends up here's your big toe. So the foot ends up raising itself up. Like if you were taking your foot off of the accelerator pedal in the car, you'd raise your foot up. And that is called dorsiflexion. Now, not plantar flexion, because plantar means the bottom of your foot toward the bottom of your foot. So dorsiflexion is the opposite. Dorsi is toward the top of your foot. Okay, so that would be the action. Now we just have one more muscle to do that runs all the way down from both the lateral tibia and fibula. It runs all the way down the center, because remember the tibia is kind of off center, so the tibialis anterior runs in front of the tibia, a little off center. So right down the center of your shin is this long muscle. It attaches at both the lateral tibia and fibula, runs down the center, and it goes all the way down, and spreads out to phalanges 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, not the big toe, everything but the big toe. So it's long, right? Because it runs all the way down the shin and then runs into the foot also. So since it's long and it's an extensor muscle and it runs down to your digits, your phalanges, your toes, it's called the extensor digitorum longus. So the toes move away from the muscle. Digitorium, because its insertion point is down in the digits, in the phalanges. And longus, because it's very long, because it goes all the way down the shin and all the way through the foot down to the toes. And so its action is that it extends the toes. See, that's why it's called extensor. It extends the toes. I could show you that, see, it runs all the way down and all the way down and all the way down to the toes down here. So that's pretty long. So extensor down to the digits, digitorum longus. And that is all for the bottom, that is all for the lower leg. So I will try to make one for the upper leg, for the thigh, and then for the arms, so you at least have the limbs. And I encourage you for the skeleton, the axial skeleton, you know, with the vertebrae and everything, go check out my online YouTube tutorials on that, where I actually have the models in my hand in real life, and I'm pointing out the structures on the models to you. That's under Anatomy Skeleton playlist. All right, thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.